Rainbow Dash, admittedly, has never been one of my favorite characters of the show. I found her episodes to be more frustrating to watch than anything else, because she's often a bit too full of herself and way too arrogant for my liking. That's not to say that she's a horrible character per se, she does have her very fun moments from time to time. I just much rather would not have her be in her own episodes, with only a couple of exceptions of episodes showing her at a much better side. Sonic Rainboom is one of those exceptions, although that doesn't have much to do with Dash as it has to do with other characters. Dash has been practicing this incredible flying technique that's called the Sonic Rainboom, which she wants to perform in this flying competition where the winner gets to have a meet and greet with the Wonderbolts. And if you may recall, the Wonderbolts are Dash's idols in the Friendship is Magic premiere. Dash decides to bring her friends along for the ride, but there's one small problem. No pony, other than the Pegasi, are able to actually walk on the clouds. And since this competition takes place in Cloudsdale, which is in the sky, that's gonna be a bit of a problem. So Twilight, having a massive talent in magic, would have to come up with a solution. She managed to find a spell to give non-Pegasi wings, which she tests out on Rarity. And this is where the thing starts to go downhill for me. You see, the spell drains a unicorn from what looks to be all of their magic. So Rarity would be the only one to get these wings in the first place. And they also look absolutely beautiful, which is all fine and good, but Rarity should be the last pony to get them. You see, Rarity has always had a habit to forcibly become the center of attention, because she believes she deserves it. So giving her wings like this would be the absolute worst thing Twilight could have done, especially given the circumstances. Remember that there's a competition coming up. A competition where Pegasi get to show their stuff, and a chance to win a pretty dang awesome prize. And Rarity knows how important this is for Rainbow Dash and how badly she wants this. She even goes out of her way to practice an awful lot to completely forgo the sound barrier to create a massive rainbow explosion. Yeah, so Rarity deliberately goes out of her way to take all of this away from Dash. She gets invited to the competitions, she is constantly the center of attention again, every pony seems to absolutely love her, and she completely destroys any chances that Dash once had to win. All of this with zero hesitation and zero consideration for how Dash would feel about this. Let's just say I'm not particularly thrilled by it. It is very satisfying to see Rarity's wings getting burnt off and Dash winning the competition with the Sonic Rainboom, but other than that, I can't say I like it very much. I find the whole thing extremely frustrating, mostly thanks to Rarity. I think it would have helped a lot if she never got those wings in the first place, boosting her ego even more than it already did. But like I said, it is very nice that her wings do get burnt off by the sun, and Dash ends up winning the competition with her ever so iconic Sonic Rainboom, which means that she gets to have a meet and greet with the Wonderbolts, the very thing she was aiming for going into this competition in the first place. Actually, come to think of it, it seems like this is a common trend with Season 1, where a lot of episodes are just a very frustrating endeavor for the most part, and then suddenly ending off on a high note. However, that doesn't really help with my overall judgment of the episode. Sorry Dash, but this just was not it. Alright, this next one is going to be rather short because, admittedly, I don't really want to talk about this one very much. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I don't really find this interesting to talk about it. I just don't like it. Stairmaster is about the CMC wrecking Fluttershy's home and getting themselves in trouble, and that's about it. No, really, that is about all there is to be said about the story in this whole mess of an episode. The CMC had a rough start, to say the least. Mostly because they started being very annoying. It's mostly just the first 2 episodes though, and it'll only get better from here. But until we get there, we gotta talk about this, which really isn't all that interesting or fun. The CMC themselves are incredibly loud and obnoxious, even more so than they were in Call of the Cutie, and Fluttershy's shyness is not really helping much in the slightest this time. The only thing Stairmaster really has going for it is Fluttershy's stare, which doesn't really take up that much time in the episode, as all of the obnoxious screaming from the CMC. The stare is essentially Fluttershy's method of getting creatures to pretty much do whatever she wants without any words or actions at all. It's literally just a stare. The CMC do eventually go into the Everfree Forest where a creature roams that can turn people into stone apparently, which would result in Fluttershy using her stare to get the creature to stop chasing them. But other than that, this episode just has absolutely nothing going for it to me. It has a pretty decent idea for a story, but ideas only go so far, which this episode very well proves. There's not much more to say about this, so let's just move on from this so we can talk about the next episode. The following episode is one that I am going to have a very unpopular opinion on. This is gonna be fun. Every single fan of the show seems to be in agreement that this is the worst episode of the CMC. And one of the worst episodes of the whole show, due to them being incredibly stupid, the episode not being funny at all, and of course, the song. So going into this, you'd probably expect me to give a similar reaction. Yeah, so the Showstoppers is actually one of those episodes that I think is severely overhated. It's essentially a big compilation of the CMC trying to find their special talents, or their calling in life. Or whatever the heck you want to call it. I'm still not very sure about that myself, to be honest. And to get the elephant in the room out of the way immediately, it is very true that the CMC reveal in this episode what their true talents are. Sweetie Belle has an amazing singing voice. Apple Bloom seems to be a pretty big tinkerer, as she completely renovated an old crusty clubhouse into something truly amazing. And Scootaloo is a stunt pony. That's literally the only way that I can describe Scootaloo, to be honest. However, the CMC seem to be completely oblivious to this, and instead just try to find all kinds of different ways to find their true talents. In case you're uninitiated as to why we're doing this, let me explain. The CMC are going through so many efforts to try and find their calling in life because, well, it's kind of a big part of life in this universe. Pretty much all equestrians have gotten their cutie marks at some point in their lives, and the CMC are very determined to finally get theirs, so they go through all of this effort to absolutely no avail whatsoever. This right here is the biggest reason why the episode is so incredibly hated as much as it is. A lot of people find it very frustrating that the CMC don't realize that they already have found their true talents, making the whole thing pointless, and their song sounds absolutely terrible.
We are the Cutie Mark Crusaders, on a quest to find out who we are, and we will never stop the journey.
While I agree that the song leaves a lot to be desired, and yes, it is quite frustrating that they don't realize that they are very talented ponies at what they are doing, I feel like a lot of people are severely overreacting. Look, I get it. I really do. It can be very frustrating to get this kind of thing shoved into your faces like this. The episode really likes to do this throughout a lot of its runtime. However, I personally can look past it because I found their shenanigans to be absolutely adorable and hilarious. The activities they try out are fun, and it makes a lot of sense for them to try this much stuff for one big reason. Remember that the Cutie Mark Crusaders are still very young children at this point in the series, and will continue to be that for the entirety of the series. It makes a lot of sense for them to go exploring and finding out who they are supposed to be at such a young age. Because yes, there are a fair few kids who do worry about this kind of thing. And getting a cutie mark in this universe is essentially a commentary to that exact idea. Of course, when you're talking about this episode, you gotta at least talk about the song they end up singing here. The whole episode builds up to this one moment. It's a very big part of the story. You gotta talk about it to some degree. So the CMC are all preparing for a show that they want to throw. In fact, that's pretty much all of what these activities are. Though I like to think that they're also trying out some fun things to find their cutie marks. It's a little fun thing that I like to imagine. The song itself is relatively underwhelming, to say the least. The Crusaders really don't have that great of a singing voice in this episode yet, which honestly makes a lot of sense given the genre that they decided to go for, which for some reason turned out to be metal, because Yeah, sure, why the heck not? Later on in the show, they luckily decide to give them more fitting songs for their singing voices in the pop genre, which I think works way better for them, but I digress. I just think the showstoppers as a whole just gets way too much flack overall. If you're willing to look past the issues that it has, and to be fair, it does have a couple of those, it can be a really fun episode to sit through. And I would very happily come back to this when I want to watch something silly, which believe me, ends up happening quite often. I already did an entire rant about Rarity. I don't think I need to explain what's going to happen next. Let's just leave it at this episode is yet another reason as to why I don't like her. Rarity is being kidnapped by a bunch of diamond dogs who want to use her as a slave to find all sorts of gems. And we get to see Rarity constantly whine and bitch and moan and... Alright, I'm gonna be real, I really don't care about this episode. Not at all. Its story is good, I like that Rarity is given the task to finish this absolutely ridiculous dress by the end of it, but then Rarity starts talking about being a lady and whining at the diamond dogs, and it just gets so annoying for me. The diamond dogs are supposed to kind of be the main attraction of this episode as far as I can tell. I can tell because they take up quite a bit of screen time here. One of them for some reason sounds like Gollum from The Lord of the Rings. I have no idea why he sounds like that, but I suppose it kind of makes sense. Gollum likes shiny things and so do the diamond dogs, so I guess it kind of makes sense. That's pretty much all that the diamond dogs have going for them, unfortunately. They like gems, and that's about all there is to say. They aren't really all that interesting or fun characters. I would say I find the situation they get themselves into funny, with Rarity constantly whining at them, but it doesn't really help that she is also actively driving me crazy along with the diamond dogs, which is not something that you want to happen. I would say more about this, but there really is not all that much more I could add to it. It's a very annoying episode to endure to me, and I honestly really do not enjoy it in the slightest. I like the idea of this, but I think you would be better off just skipping it. It's bad.